Hello, students. Welcome to this YouTube channel, and let us continue our discussion on the strange affairs of Ravinesh Gangam. Let us resume from the particular section that I have already completed. And in our previous discussion, we have found that there was a particular resurgence to Gangam's description of his earlier life. Now, from line number 20, it begins that at 24, I invited myself to Bohemia. So ultimately, you will find that in the previous discussion, there was a particular reference to his childhood or early childhood. Now he has a bit grown up, and you can find here that at 24, and certainly this is actually indicating toward the age of 24. Ultimately, here you will find that the poet moves on to describe his temperaments once he had that of a romantic lyricist that have been taken into consideration here. Here he writes that at 24, I invited myself to Bohemia. Where the term Bohemia has been incorporated here, you will find that somehow the term or the particular place, Bohemia, in a typical ideological point of view, you will find a term Bohemian. Okay, it is actually indicating towards the temperament of a person, the person who doesn't want to be within the four walls, okay, or the person who actually tries to evade the responsibilities, the household responsibilities specifically, and he wants to be a part of nature to some extent. So somehow that is the temperamental aspect that Gangam is trying to propagate here. You will find that he is a romantic lyricist who was engaged in the world of fantastic illusions to some extent. The adventure loving bohemian temperament in the kingdom of art could make him feel ageless, you see. So that's why he writes that at 24, I invited myself to Bohemia. And then the kingdom of art. So that is the temperament of an artist, you see. That if you have the typical bohemian temperament, that you can make yourself free from the obligatory principles of the society or maybe the family in general, then in the kingdom of art, you will find that people never grow old. So that is the typical ageless consideration that he is trying to propagate here. He says that you can find that the people, ultimately in the kingdom of art, if he resides in the kingdom of art, then it makes him feel ageless because the people never grow old there. Okay, and then he writes that the curious mindset of the youth could engage him in something illusory somehow. So there he writes that the kingdom of art where people never grow old was my affable neighbor. So ultimately, the persons with the bohemian temperament were considered to be my neighbor. Why? Because that particular self, that particular consideration is always present with me. Then he writes that moves by curiosity, I found myself lingering at back stages, okay, where painted girls and poor blind boys came to do their parts. So fundamentally, you will find that somehow the curious mindset of the youth could engage him in something illusory where painted girls and poor blind boys came to do their part. And then it was heard no more. So ultimately, you can you not find any particular reference to the Shakespearean allusion here? Ultimately, we find that in As You Like It, there was Jacques who says that life is a stage. Okay, and we are actually just like mere players. We are playing our part. Similarly, in Shakespeare's Macbeth, you have identified that Shakespeare wrote that life is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Just like a poor player, we actually struts and frets, and then it was heard no more. So somehow that particular temperament is being reciprocated here by Gangam, where he is actually referring to the performance of any particular man in a particular stage or something like that. Now, when all the illusions have made the fogs of illusion disperse all at once, you will find then he can feel the real, you see. And then in the next section, you will find he begins that in the evenings now. Why it is being incorporated as the evening? Because ultimately you will find that towards the end of your life, when you have grown from innocence to maturity, in the evening of your life, ultimately you have got the capability of understanding, you have got the capability of identifying what is happening to your life and what is happening to the society and what is happening to your religion, what are the different aspects that actually was behind your understanding in the previous sense. But now when you have completely grown up, now you can identify what is happening in front of you because you have got the capability of understanding them. So in the evenings now, when you can identify what is happening to me and what is happening to my other people, my family members, or maybe the residents in the same state, you can identify that it is something despairing. And now he writes in the evenings now. So it is not simply the evening, rather it is actually indicating the evening of your life. That means when you are completely being matured. So in the evenings now, I often mix my drink with despair. So it is not simply a matter of merrymaking. The drink is not being associated with merrymaking only. You can find the despairing note has to be associated with it. And that's why he says that now when all the illusions have made the fogs of illusion disperse all at once, he can feel the real, as all his drinks are now mixed with despair. Okay? And then he writes that love, of course, made me entirely useless. So this is a kind of a realization that Ngangom is trying to propagate here. That love has made him useless. Yes, in this section, the poet has prefigured the changing temperament in him. So this is the story of my people. So generally you can find that whether it is the matter of temperament, whether the matter of your thinking and understanding, whether it is the matter of your say adventurous temperament, or maybe the love, ultimately you will find that the typical form of uselessness, the matters of despair, everything has to be attached with me because I can feel what I have lost, I can feel that what I have faced. So this is not simply the story of mine. Rather, it has to be treated as the story of my people. So here you will find that Ngangom is actually representing a particular group of people. He is actually representing, or he is the representative of a class, of a group of people, of a large amount of people who are residing at Manipur during this particular time. What is happening there, you see? He writes, we sowed suspicion in the fields. So fundamentally, you will find that in these lines, you will find the terms like sowed, fields, crops. So everywhere you will find that the terms are taken from the agricultural background, you see? Right? And now the poet describes the condition of his people in general. When he in the previous stanza, he is referring to my people, and you will find that the people has to be treated in general. He writes that in place of the crops, in place of the seeds, now we are sowing suspicion. So there was suspicion, there was hatred, material success on the misfortune of others, begging, arguments, and blaming others. All these things have been taken in consideration here. He writes, we sowed suspicion in the fields. Hatred sprang and raised the crops. So you see that in place of, that whenever the poets are associating associating something associated with agriculture or farming or something like that, you will find that the fertility image, the fertility impact is always being reciprocated. But in place of fertility, you will find the terms like suspicion, you will find the terms like hatred, you will find the terms like gloating neighbors, okay, and begging. So these are all the negative terms ultimately. And here he writes that we sowed suspicion in the fields, so in place of the seeds, hatred sprang in place of the crops, or hatred sprang and raised the crops. Now they go to gloating neighbors, and ultimately you will find that gloating, this particular term, is actually referring to the dwelling on one's success or another's misfortune. okay, and begging bowls in hand, fingers pointed at each other. So everywhere you will find the matters of hatred, matter of problem and tussle, and different kinds of psychosocial disorder has to be prevailed, or it is prevailing in Manipur, or maybe the smaller uh, the villages and towns of Manipur during this time. So therefore he writes that we sowed suspicion in the fields, hatred sprang and raised the crops. Now they go to gloating neighbors, begging bowls in hand, fingers pointed at each other. Okay, because each one is blaming the other person for something, the same kind of responsibility. So far as a Bengali poet, Jivanananda Das is concerned, we have found a particular term there. He writes that "shokolei ar choke shokolke dekhe." Here you can find the same kind of incorporation is being made by Rabindranath Gangam here. That fingers pointed at each other. That means each and every person is blaming the other for any kind of fall, any kind of loss, any kind of lack. So ultimately, he is using that. So now they go to gloating neighbors, bringing bowls in hand, fingers pointed at each other. Their incessant bickering or arguing muffles all pity. So ultimately, the pity is always at the core, but their bickering or their arguing, it actually muffles all pity. So you can find the empty verbiage everywhere. The people are fighting her, the people are quarreling, the people are shouting and bickering, and they are trying to hide the pity, hide the suffering that they are facing each and every moment. So somehow that I'm trying to suggest here, that there was suspicion, hatred, etc. The proverb, as you know, that as you sow, so you reap, can poignantly be related with this particular section. The constant pressure of materialist politics made the persons from agrarian setup to blame each other. The trees become poisonous here, and the crops born out it bear hatred, and the ultimate condition of the state becomes full of pity. So that is the thing, that is the actually the present condition that Rabin S. Gangam is trying to propagate here. But it is not all, you see. Ultimately, now we can identify the submerged iceberg, the peak of the submerged iceberg. So ultimately, the massive section is lying underneath. So what are the other forms of problems that the people are facing? What are the typical problems that the inhabitants of Manipur are facing? We will discuss it with this particular text in our next few lectures. So subscribe this channel and try to find, or if you subscribe the channel, then you will get the notifications regarding the future endeavors or future videos that will come in this channel. So today up to this, thank you then.